Hello and welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title and the fact that the board is empty to start, that this is going to be more of a rambly video similar to the video I did last week or maybe even the week before about contracts and my opinions. I feel like this doesn't need a script. As you can tell by the title, I'm not a big fan of double Elim, which we're going to get into why. There's one real fundamental reason why I don't like double Elim. I think there are a lot of solid arguments as to why to have additional games, but there is one fundamental flaw of double Elim that I think nullifies, its purpose. So, first things first, we're going to talk about what EU's done. LCK is doing double Elim pretty much straight up, so we're just going to talk about double Elim and include that in there. But EU, a lot of different things going on. From what I understand, I don't have anything written on the board, so this could be completely wrong. If you look up, you can look it up on Twitter, Google it or whatever, you'll find out what the LEC intends on doing. But basically what it seems like to me, they're doing a single round robin from 10 teams and then drops to 8 teams. Then they're doing best of 3s, best of 5s, whatever, and the like. Okay, I'm completely on board with best of 3s, best of 5s. The more games, the merrier. The more games in that situation, the merrier. I believe that is a necessity. Now, the problem I have is with the single round robin format and the 10 teams going down to 8 teams. This is what the board's going to be for. I'm going to kind of write down what I have been seeing as the arguments for why it's good and why I don't like it. Well, not why I don't like it, but the argument against those, like the other side of the coin, if you will, the devil's advocate. So let's do this. So for instance, people like to say, and this is like the most common one, that it makes teams go for 8th place or better, right? So makes teams spend go for it. And what does that really mean? What is that code for? That is code for spend more of this to get wins. You don't end up with crap rosters. You don't end up with rosters that nobody cares about, right? Understandable. Completely. Like this, theoretically, makes some sense. Now, the argument against it, in my opinion, is that it okay, no desire to risk it. What does that mean? Well, some people are going to say, well, if you don't risk anything, you're not going to get into the top 8 to move on. But the thing is, like, teams are going to lose so much from sponsors by only doing 9 games. Like, they just lose so much, right? And people are going to say, well, you have to go for it to earn the right to move on to the next round. I completely think that makes sense. You don't want teams to spend nothing. That is why, if you missed my contract video, why we need a salary cap and a salary cap floor. The salary cap floor makes it so that every team has to spend X amount of money no matter what. The NHL, National Hockey League in America, uses one. I don't know if the other major sports do in North America, but hockey does. You have to spend a certain amount of money no matter what. You cannot get out cheap where you can just spend nothing and field a team in the same league as teams that can spend whatever they want, right? You have to spend a minimum. Now, no desire to risk it. If I am a team and I am looking, let's say, for instance, I am Astralis, right? Astralis stinks. No offense, Astralis, but you've stunk since I've started watching it. So, if I'm Astralis and I have to make a decision between Nuke Duck and Dplex, right? Dplex now reportedly going to C9, but stick with me just for the sake of the argument because this is what I feel. If you are Astralis, why the hell would you sign Dplex and play a rookie when you have 3 weeks, 9 games to get into the top 8 versus Nuke Duck? Like, what's the argument for that? Why would you want to do that? Well, he might be better. Theoretically, he could be, but there is risk to that, right? He hasn't played in the LEC. We don't know if he is good enough, but we do know what we're going to get out of veterans. So, no desire to risk it. No desire to risk, like, no... No inexperienced players. Why would you do that? Why would you go get a rookie? There is no reason to, unless like they are super good and they are better than, obviously free agency is free agency. Like that's a thing, right? We see that that's a thing. But mid lane's a perfect example because I think Nuke Duck is not the worst mid laner in Europe. He's probably in that 6 to 8 range. Even some people might have him even higher than that. But the point is, why the hell would I want to go get an ERL player that may have all the talent and potential in the world if I know if they have even a little bit of a hiccup early on in the split, that could cost me half my season. That could cost half the money. We're not gonna make any money. Like it's just so screwed up. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it. I think that you do not, like, you look at BDS, right? BDS signs Jack Spectra. I'm not BDS. Heretics signs Jack Spectra. It makes no sense. Like, you might be a Jack Spectra fan, whatever. I've never seen Jack Spectra play. He might be great. He might be great. Some people are going to say, oh, he's going to do this or that, but really you're just a Reddit pundit like me, so really what else do you have to say? Except I don't use Reddit, I use YouTube and put my face to my words instead of typing it on my computer like a pansy. But that's beside the point. So, if he fails, if he struggles early on, right, Heretics loses a ton of money. They lose money. But Flackid is behind him. If Flackid was playing in place of Jack Spectra, at least you know what you're going to get out of Flackid. And that's not to say Jack Spectra isn't better than Flackid. He theoretically could be. I've never watched him play. But if he hits a rookie wall in those first 3 weeks, you're going to have problems. Now, there's another thing to be made here in regards to roster building. This going for it includes taking imports. You look at Vitality. Vitality is a perfect example, right? We are so excited for Vitality. Look at Photon. Look at Bo. Oh my God. Well, this team failed last year. So let's keep that in mind, right? And why did they fail? Haru. And it's not his fault necessarily. From the outside, I'm not going to blame Haru, but we'll get into it in a second. So, no inexperienced players. You cannot afford a communication issue. You cannot afford a language barrier. You cannot. Now, theoretically, this allows for the possibility that you are more apt to be getting a player that can speak English or German or French. English is just an example in terms of ease of communication, right? Because you have 3 weeks to get into the top 8, and people are going to say, oh, well, it's just a top 8. That's not a big deal. There are going to be a handful of teams that are going to be in a situation where they're like 10th through a handful. So 10th through 6th. I think that could theoretically end up in these bottom 2 spots. I'm not going to I'm not putting a tier list out there because I think I'm not doing that right now. You don't want a communication issue. Why does it relate to Vitality and Haru? There were rumors that in the beginning, Vitality's issues were because Haru and the team struggle to communicate with each other and to get things done. If Vitality has that problem with Bo and Photon, so you have a Korean top laner, a Chinese jungler, you can say, oh, well, they're just so good, they're going to overcome it. Like, that is a hopium take. Like, and it could be probable. I don't know if these players can speak English well or whatever. Maybe they can, and it's fine. But just from an outside perspective, an unbiased opinion, I think that there is a chance that they have a communication issue. And if they have a communication issue, there is a not a probability, but a chance that they could implode early on. There's going to be a lot of pressure in 9 games to get things done. If you have a problem that needs to be fixed, you're screwed. In my opinion, you're screwed. There's just no way around it. Now, luckily, maybe multiple teams have a problem. If 5 teams have a problem, your problem might not be as big of a deal. Now, my issue with 9 games. The 9 games, I'm going to do this for a second. Well, never mind. Okay, so scheduling for more games allows for more best of 3s, best of 5s by having a single round robin tournament. Blue and red side. So if we end up in a situation where it's 60-40, again, I think that is a bunch of BS, a single round robin tournament to determine anything in terms of seeding and the like. I think that is too lopsided. If we saw a champion with a 60% win rate in solo queue, it would be adjusted. So if you, unless you're okay with it, so for the people that say this isn't a big deal, this shouldn't matter, do not complain if a champion has a 60% win rate or lower and want it fixed if you don't believe that this is not a problem as well, because it is. And obviously, this takes a bigger, a more concerted effort to fix. That's a big deal. That's a meta thing and a ton of stuff. And who knows, maybe it's going to be 50-50 in spring and it's fine. It doesn't have to be 50-50, but I mean, if you're a person that whines on Twitter or on Reddit about a champion being OP because it has a 60% win rate, then you've got to also be in this boat, at least in my opinion. Can't be wish-washy for your sake, but not for others. I also think it's going to cause a situation where people are just going to go and say, oh, well, X team didn't get side selection, and that's why they lost. And it's just like, I think there's a lot of problems. I do believe, though, and agree that this is important. Like, I'm going to get a different marker. Like, I want this. Like, more best of 3s and best of 5s, for sure. Get these players into those situations more. I think best of 3s is the best way of doing it. I don't really know what the LCK viewer, I do. I could look it up. Maybe I'll do a video about that this off season, or I got a big project going on, so I really don't have a lot of time to do other research. But I'd like to see how LCK viewership is between Monday and Thursday versus Friday, Saturday. Well, actually, I guess it'd be Wednesday, Thursday versus Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to determine how much they're losing in viewership because they're doing best of 3s during the week. Obviously, the LPL does it, but I think to find out the numbers on that would be next to impossible. I'm not going to use a site that doesn't have the Chinese numbers in it for their streams and whatnot. So, because I believe that if you did like a single round robin where So we got this, right? We got this. This is the way this video goes, because that thought is going to segue into why I don't like double elim and what my optimal look is. So we have this. Usually I pause at this point, but we won't for a second. So my comment down below with your opinions, and I'm sure people are going to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter and this and that. Well, I think that you can't really say it doesn't matter, because it kind of does. And I mean, it is better for some ways, and I think it's worse for others. You know, the EU situation. Now, my optimal schedule would be probably what the LPL does. Best of threes. And, well, no, actually, see, the LPL, so the LPL system, so I just realized the fan's on. Hopefully that isn't loud. It's on the lowest setting. Best of three, single round robin all week. That's the way the LPL does it, right? They play a couple series a day, best of threes, and get it done. And I don't know what the viewership is on that. It could be downright awful. It might not be worth it for the LEC to do it, or LCS or whatever. Best of three, single round robin, I think, is the best way to do it. You allow both teams to get a side. They can duke it out. And side selection is not a difference maker. And I hate best of twos. I think best of twos is a joke. So, we've got that, right? So, best of threes, single round. But how do you determine who gets the third side selection? It's the loser of the second game. And I think that provides one team an inherent advantage, that they could win game one. If it's a blue-red side situation, you win game one. You lose game two, you can just pick blue on game three, and you have an inherent advantage. How do you offset that inherent advantage that they have? Game three lowest win time is the one that gets to pick what side they get. That's fair. That's fair. Both teams had an opportunity. Both games get an opportunity to do that. I think that is theoretically the most fair way to do it. Other people could find out other ways to do it, but I think you understand my point, is that there needs to be a tiebreaker that both teams had an opportunity to get, that they didn't win via coin toss or a bunch of BS and got lucky. So that would be optimal. You got that. You play each other all once. And that does it. Now, double elim. Why don't I like double elim? So, this could go for double, quadruple, sextuple, 2, 4, 6. Go down the list, right? Octuple? Regardless. So, in double, you can have a situation where, let's say, for instance, using Worlds is a good example. T1 beat JDG 3-1. We all loved JDG. We all thought JDG in double elim, they would be the rightful winners in this and this and this. But they lost, and I mean, it's just unfortunate they couldn't play like DRX and beat. Okay, so let's hypothesize that DRX loses, or somebody loses, right? And they have, so let's say, actually, we can even continue this way, right? So T1 beats JDG, and let's just say JDG wins. And now DRX, T1, 3-2. Now we've got down here, losers bracket. T1 and JDG play again, right? Because DRX beat T1 in the winner final. So this is the loser final to determine who plays DRX over here. So, in this format, people are going to say, oh, well, this team... No, this is the basic fundamental problem I have with it. So, if JDG wins 3-1 over T1, they end up going here. They get to go to the finals. Why? Why do they? They won the loser finals. Who and why is JDG a better team than T1, that they are the team that gets the right to lose and then win to get back in, but T1 hypothetically does not get that opportunity? I mean, they get that opportunity, but how do you determine which team is actually the better team? What makes JDG the better team than T1? If both finish 3-1, hypothetically, that's even. That's an even score. One team's not better than the other. Like, people's argument's going to be like, oh, well, JDG had a bad day, or it's just one series. You know, they'll win the rest of them, and they'll get to go, and it's all... Why are you the one that gets to decide that JDG gets to win the non-existent tiebreaker over T1 if JDG won 3-1 against T1? If the normal bracket and the losers bracket results are the same between the same two teams, there is no, like right now, there is no determiner to which team is actually better. You just allowed one team, like it's 1-1. Like it's 1-1, best out of 2. That's a tie. That is not somebody won, somebody lost. So you need to have a tiebreaker. It either has to be... So, right now in single Elim, the winner moves on. The better team that day moves on. And yes, oh, it sucks. You know, it was just a bad day. It was just a bad day. If they had another chance, they'd beat them. Sure, okay, they could... In my hypothetical, they beat them. But why are they the better team? They beat them by the same score. As of right now, there is no determining factor as to why one is better than the other. So you need to have a tiebreaker situation. You could do something like lowest win time. You could. I'm not ruling that out. But that would be an additional step to what is right now, which is teams can finish. Teams can go 1-1, best out of 2, and one team's allowed to move on. That's a bunch of nonsense. It's not, I mean, people like to say it's not fair to do single Elim. Like, that certainly isn't fair. That's a tie. And one could say, well, one's a higher seed than the other, than they deserve. Well, at Worlds, it wasn't, that wouldn't, like, come on. So, you gotta do single. Or you do triple, which takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, extra days that you may not have scheduled to do, right? You can't say, okay, you can't do this. You can't say, hopefully you guys can read this. This is way over here. Can't do third best of 5. No time. You can't do it because there's no time, right? And it makes sense. Logistically, that makes a ton of sense, right? You can't all of a sudden say, oh, well, we're going to play 10 games today, guys. We're going to do that. And that's true. You can't. So what do you do? Well, you could say, if this is... Do you play it out? Do you play all 5 games? Or do you play enough games to make it so that one of these two teams wins 5 games? You could, because if it was this, if it's this instead, T1 technically won 5 games, JDG won 4, T1 should get to move on. First team to 5 would win because the other team, right? No, it'd be first to 6. Something would have to change. Something would have to change. Because if both are 3-1, see, I'm working through this as I go along here. This is the downfall of not having a script, but regardless, I think the point should be getting across to those that want to hear it, and there are going to be people that don't want to hear it because they're just riding some teams because they have something wrong in their head that makes them, be blind to the reality that 1-1 best out of 2 is a tie. So if it's the same, sure. Now if it was 3-0 JDG, I would say JDG should move on. They at least won a game in this one. T1 did not, so JDG is the better team in the 2 best of 5s. They had more wins. They had 4, T1 had 3. So that would be a tiebreaker of sorts. You could also do something like lowest average win time. You could do, that's probably the one. Or you do, we're going to get a different color here. You could do this. If you can't stomach that, out of 2 best of 5s, which I think I wouldn't stomach it myself, you do a best of 1 tiebreaker after this series is done. That's a lot of games. That could be 6 games in a day. I'm not saying that it isn't a lot. It definitely could be. They could be mentally fried. The team that lost could be mental boom. But we cannot play an extra day for 1 game. We can't do it. So there has to be something here to break this, and right now that's the only one I can come up with off the top of my head. You do a best of 1 tiebreaker. The team that gets side selection may be able to pull that off, or more wins between the 2 series. If you don't want to use the analogy that, X team had 4 wins, the other team had 3, or however you want to look at it, 5-4 or whatever. Theoretically, it could be 5-5, which makes it a complete tie. But I think the point still remains that there is a problem with double Elim in the end that is fundamentally flawed. It allows a team to move on by beating a team that beat them in the same amount of games. So really, who has the edge? You can't say in this hypothetical T1's better than JDG or JDG's better than T1. The results are the same when they played each other. There's no easy, simple solution right now. And that I don't see that simple, easy solution in double Elim in general. And a lot of people are going to say, well, double Elim is in all esports, it should be in this one. That does not make the fundamental problem with double Elim, in my opinion, fixed. That just says that other people are also doing the same damn crap. At least with single Elim, the better team that day moves on. The loser does not. The loser does not get an opportunity to beat the team that beat them the same way and move on while that other team goes home. That makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense why that happens. No, I don't think anybody's going to be able to rationalize that. In terms of a gamesmanship sort of way. They can say you can run out of time. 100% agree. I think that time is an issue. That is why we are in the situations we're in. And people are going to say, oh, this is Worlds format. This is not about the Worlds format. This is an example fresh in our mind that would hopefully be able to relate to people. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you got something from it. Comment down below with your opinions. Like it if you like it. Share it if you did enjoy it enough to share it. Subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. Yesterday's video did absolute dog. So needless to say, I didn't go over minor regions today because nobody from the minor regions is really watching the video. So that's unfortunate. If you want, become a YouTube member, $3 a month. Get a badge in the comment section. Allows me to keep doing videos. $10 a month to get extra content, including NFL, American football stuff, which I will be doing after this. This board's going to be erased, and I'm going to do that video for my members today. So that's that. Thank you for watching. I hope you come back for more content.